Let's see what Ulrich thought was so important, Piran said. He stepped in front of Blaine. Sorry, mate. I go first. Thick skull, tough skin, he said with a grin that made it clear he relished courting trouble. And I've got your back, Kestrel Falk said with a jaunty grin. She had a dagger in each hand. Better than swords for fighting in the close quarters of the crypt and its tunnels. You'll need me somewhere near the front, since I'm the one with the directions, Dylan remarked. We need to go in and get out as quickly as possible. The dreams were clear about the danger, and it grows the longer we stay. Zarier's voice was quiet, meant to avoid attracting the attention of the two university mages in the back of the group. Blaine nodded to acknowledge her warning. Just make sure your light shines enough to show the way. I've got no desire to bang into the rocks. Zaphid's curt tone managed to convey both displeasure and impatience. Stop fussing. I've got a lantern, and keep your voice down. Dagger brought up the rear, holding his partially shuttered lantern aloft. Now wait just a minute, lad. Where do you— Shut up! By the gods, I'll put one of these blades in your throat! Kestrel turned so that Zaphid could see the glint of her knives and the intensity of her glare. Zaphid looked as if he wanted to say more, then thought better of it. Dagger was barely hiding a snicker. The group that was heading into the crypt was small, but hardly defenseless. Piran was a soldier, and a damn good one before his court-martial. Prison and exile had honed his skills far beyond what the King's army had taught him. Blaine McFadden, the disgraced Lord of Glenreath, had learned a thing or two about combat fighting to survive in the brutal Vellant prison colony where he, Piran, and Kestrel had been exiled for their crimes. Kestrel Falk had earned her exile as a spy and assassin, though her looks and wit made her best remembered as one of the most popular courtesans at court. She, Blaine, and Piran had forged their friendship, watching each other's backs long before they returned to their ruined homeland, and it was an old habit that still served them well. Zarier, a seer, had been part of a travelling troupe that had joined in Blaine's quest. Dylan was the assistant to the King's Exchequer, back when such things as kings, kingdoms, and exchequers still existed. In the ruins of what remained, those days seemed a distant memory, or perhaps a half-forgotten dream. Zaphid and Dagger had been mages at the university before the Great Fire, and before the kingdom fell, when the magic worked as it should. As a group, they were a most unusual delegation to be heading into the tombs of the ancient kings to steal back the keys to the future. Now, in darkness, they moved toward what Blaine hoped might help them rebuild the kingdom. They had restored the magic that was broken in the war, or at least made it possible for the power to be harnessed once more. The cataclysm that had leveled the castle and killed the rulers had left the kingdom in chaos and anarchy. Blaine believed it would be much easier to rebuild if they could bend the power of artifacts made before the cataclysm to their will. By my reckoning, we're moving back toward the castle. Given the steep angle, we could end up underneath it before too long, Blaine murmured. They'd each brought lanterns, making it possible for them to move through the dark and winding passageway. Kestrel had secured one of her knives, and now held a lantern in her left hand and a knife in the right. Her red hair was bound up for battle, and a cuirass and plain-spun tunic and trews were the practical attire of a trained assassin. Obviously, this wasn't supposed to be the main entrance, she said. Too bad so much of the castle collapsed, or it would have been much easier to get there from inside, but there's too much rubble in the way. They walked in silence, weapons ready, expecting ambush at every turn. Suddenly, Piran stopped and held up a hand in warning. Do you hear that? Blaine